So I'm going to take that opportunity and to some extent that hook there to talk a little bit about the 222 program, because we haven't really explored to its depth how much excited we are about it. So as you know, Praxis 222, or now we have the proposed INN there, so we can give them a name and hopefully soon a last name. The aim is to revolutionize the way ASOs are developed for epilepsies. That was the aim from the beginning when Dr. Petro and Alex, Kelly started working on this as a very small group of people trying to solve this problem, right? But it's still the aim today that we are really working very hard to disrupt. Maybe just to ground everyone on 2A. When you look into the condition, right? Patients with mutations on the gene that encodes TNAV1.2, this sodium channel in the brain, or SCN2A, they have a very predictable, to some extent, life. They cease at birth or no later than 3 months at life. And I know many people in this audience here and in the webcast have kids. So just imagine that for a second, right? A newborn and ceasing at that day. They don't go away. There are many other conditions that kids have seizures at birth, and I don't wish any of them to actually ever happen, but that you can control and control pretty well. But you cannot. They're refractory, and they continue throughout the life of those patients. Right? The one concept that might have been lost is that there is a direct correlation between sudden and unexpected death in epilepsy with the number, frequency, and severity of seizures a patient have. So when you're talking about reducing that, we are talking about survival. Right? We're directly linking not only quality of life, as many talk, not only a reduction in an endpoints, but really keeping these kids alive for better medical advance, better treatments, better understanding of how to give those treatments, or simply to enjoy more time with their families. So our mission is really to change the trajectory, like one patient at a time. And we always said that, right? A lot of you have been interacting with us in a very long time, but this came to life several months ago, like about 7 months ago, in a way that was unexpected for us. And that's how I would like to start this conversation. We got a call from a team saying, we have a patient here with us, and this patient was born in convulsive status epilepticus. We tried to do everything we could to rescue. A lot of you know, like other companies are working on that space as well. They couldn't do anything. So we know the trajectory, right? They're going to continuously seize, have convulsive seizures, and unfortunately perish for the most part. And the question at that point in time is, would you be willing to provide Praxis 222 on an emergency base? Now, put ourselves in our shoes at that point in time, right? This would be the first patient ever to receive the drug. Is an emergency case. And as you can see here, it was not only that, he was a preterm newborn. So we go back to the framework. Are we here to help, or are we here to just like play into the developments the way we normally planned? And I think the decision at the end of the day was we're here to help. Obviously, we had multiple meetings with the team there, a fantastic team of physicians and parents that were engaged on this. And the expectation at that point in time is, well, maybe you can help them get a little bit more rescue medications going on and a few other things to keep this kid stable. But what we actually seen was fairly dramatic. So what we see in this patient is after one dose, the very first dose, within the very first month, you went from continuous convulsive seizures. We're talking about an EEG, an EEG that does not change patterns here. So I want to be clear, right? This is not like you're 5 minutes and then it goes away, and then 5 minutes and go away, as sometimes status epilepticus is. This is a very, very severe kid on the ICU without really any other. And what we're seeing is periods that was not happening. So encouraging, but not necessarily the end of it. Now you fast forwards to 7 doses of the drug. And remember, 7 doses is not like 7 days. 7 doses are 7 months or more here, right? We're talking about twice as long of a period of observation for every anti-seizure medication that has been approved in the United States to date on their pivotal trial. I want to put that in context, right? The way to approve drugs is 12 weeks observation versus the 28 days before at baseline, just to create the framework that it goes beyond the normal period of observation for the first studies that we're looking in. And as you can see here, I'm not read all of this for you, it's dramatic, the change. No status, basically no seizures. And what for me was quite phenomenal, one was shared by the clinical team, is like being able to breastfeed. Right? That is a very high function, requires a lot of coordination, requires a lot of other things going on in the environment for a patient like that. This patient is clinically stable. This actual 7th dose was just delivered like days ago. So really doing great. Now, if I show you data from one patient, you'll say, no, Marcio, this is great, and I think we're all excited about it, and I'm glad you're helping one patient. So our next question is, what is happening with our actual trial in the United States, right? We've been running a study in the United States, as you are all aware, which we call EMBRAVE. And just to bring it back to what we aim to do in EMBRAVE, in the current study here in the US. So we're looking for primarily safety, right? That was the objective. So got to the end of EMBRAVE, gave them 4 doses. The patients were safe, like no major issues, no major like side effects. Would say success. That was a success. Now, because we care a lot, our bar was we expect to see something going on as well on their seizures, and overall. Patients were dosed every month, and then they're collected daily seizure information, and then the following month, and so on. So at this point in time, as we stand here with you today, we have 3 of those completed, 3 months observation, so 3 doses plus 2 weeks after for the observations completed for all those patients. The 4th period is forthcoming in the next few weeks as well. And what we're seeing, I believe, shocked us to some extent, not because we're not expecting, but because we're incredibly happy with what we are seeing. As some of you researched, talked to key opinion leaders, wrote in your reports on the analyst community here, on the ones, investors on the phone that talked with us, if you've seen 10-15% seizure reduction on this cohort, we should be really, really happy, right? Because all those patients are on best standard of care. Like everything was tried, they're stable on that dose, there's nothing else to be gained from the treatment they're in. But what we actually seeing is much better results than that at this point in time. So you see here after 1 dose, 2 doses, 3 doses, apart, we're seeing orders of magnitudes than our expectation. And as you can see on the range on the bottom here of the slides, of course there's variability within those patients, but every one of them benefited. So when you put this together on 4 patients here, the patient on the emergency access, it becomes very, very hard, no matter how much you want to maybe add some caveats, to not believe that this is the most incredible results that's been seen in this disease ever. Right? It would be great to just stop here, right? But one of the things we heard again and again from key opinion leaders in this field is, did it reduce just the number of seizures, or there's any other measure associated with that that might be important for the patients, for their lives? As you all know, there is a big agenda push, rightly so, by the FDA on understanding how does that impact patients' lives at the end. And then when you look into the number of days in the month that they did not seize at all, right? So 0 seizures entering that day. See the baseline there, 21% on that first month. And then in general, it's almost double, right? So from 21 to 33% number of days is a very, very significant. So I'm going to ask you once again to ask yourself, you have a kid with this condition, 24-hour care, what happens when they are actually not seizing that day? To your life, to your quality of life, to the interventions and everything else. Now, there are much more to come as we continue to advance this, but it's quite incredible and unprecedented. It's also timely to some extent as we're preparing for this conversation the last few days, and I got a text on Saturday saying one more patient died in the United States, 10-year-olds with this condition. That hurts because our speed is never as fast as the families expect it to be, as these patients need it to be, but it creates an extra motivation for me at least, and for all of us at Praxis to actually move this, to actually help these patients more and more. Now, none of this would matter if the drug was incredibly toxic and we couldn't give this to patients. They were having all sorts of weird side effects, but that's not the case. We had no treatment emerging adverse events or they're related to drug, or serious adverse events related to drug. Not showing all the lab values and things like this here, and we're going to do this in a later date, but I can tell you that it's pretty uneventful as well, boring as safety should always be for situations like this. So incredibly excited, but it does change the trajectory of the program for us because our target profile was less than what we are seeing with this cohort right now. So there are very rare times in history of drug developments that one can reach the target profile in the first cohorts. So our proposal for next steps here is obviously we're going to wrap it up, the collection. We want to make sure that we do that, compile this package on the next several weeks, have an interaction with the FDA, which we obviously expect them to be very open to the benefit risk that exists here for a disease without any other treatments. It's not only any other treatment available, it's any other treatments in development. There's absolutely nothing else in the clinic for these patients. So therefore the urgency as well. And having now decided that this dose is efficacious, to expand this cohort and to run a pivotal trial. Actually, now that I said the dose, I was remiss to actually reflect on that dose. You are all very familiar with intrathecally delivered ASOs and with the great benefits that are being seen with some of the setbacks that happen in the field as well. And if there is one thing we know about drug development in general, is like you should always try to give the least amount of drug that's going to give you the maximum benefits, right? Not only because it's nice, but because drugs do other things when you give a lot of them, chemically or biophysically or biochemically. They just happen. And this ASO, we knew from the very beginning, is incredibly potent, distributes really well on the brain, and it's giving a 1 milligram dose every month. So very, very happy with what we're here. Incredibly humbled by where we stand as well. The study in the US by design was done with Dr. James Willis in Tennessee. So I would be remiss not to actually thank him and his team, who were like world leaders in this kind of study. They really jumped in, brought all the patients there, did the best possible care these patients could have, but ultimately the heroes here are those patients, right? It's that when they got to the trial, despite not having other alternative, they didn't know the risk they were putting the kids in. So I just want to take this moment as well to thank them.